We went through the fundamentals of JavaScript. In this lecture, we are going to learn how to use the JavaScript to change the browser during dynamic user interactions, what we called as DOM manipulation. By the end of this video, you will master DOM manipulation. We can interact with a web page. We can scroll, click, view data, and navigate from one page to another. But have you ever wondered how this actually happens? To create a web page, we need three essential ingredients. HTML is the structure or bones of the web page. CSS for styling and design, and JavaScript for interactivity and functionality. By combining these three, you can create a visually appealing and interactive website. But how do users interact with our website? How the buttons, forms, and dynamic content work? This is all made possible through the document object model, DOM. A web page is essentially a document that can be displayed in a browser window. The DOM representation of this document allows it to be accessed and manipulated. The DOM is an object-oriented representation of the web page, meaning it can be modified using a scripting language like JavaScript. At the end of the day, only thing you can reach out through a programming language is supposed to be objects, right? Not HTML elements itself. Now that we understand the concept, let's see how it works in the code. Okay, I have my VS Code open, and in my folder at the moment, I only have the index.html and script.js. I don't have the CSS file, although it is nicer with CSS, it's not mandatory. At the moment, I have nothing on my browser because there's nothing in the HTML. So let's create some text here. And a button, a click me button. Okay. But there is no interaction. When I click on the button, nothing happens with the web page at the moment because I have no code on the script.js. I have some, but all of them are commented out. Now, before going that, let's just think how we can see the HTML, how the web page is appearing on the browser. But when we open our app in our local environment, we are sending the HTML file to the browser first. And the browser itself is a huge software. And there are some special units called readers in the browser that will read your HTML from top to bottom and interpret it and paint your website line by line. That's why actually we put the script tag to the end. Well, there is a defer keyword that with that you can just add it to the top now as well. But the idea was because the functionality, giving the functionality to the web page is might require a lot of time. It can be a huge script.js file. You don't want when the page is painting also the browser deal with the JavaScript and freeze. That's why the script.js file here. And the readers on the browser is aware the script.js via the script tag. That being said, we also need to know that the only job of the readers is not just reading your HTML and painting your web page. When they are doing that, they're also converting the entire document, entire HTML into an object and place it under the document. The name of the document object model is coming from here actually. The document is that, and the document object is the object of the document object model library, which the library itself is the part of the browser. That's why we can just take the document object and use it in our JS file via the JS file. Let me first console.log this document object. Let's see how it looks like. And let's go to the console, right click, inspect. There it is. If I open it, voila, the entire document is here in the form of an object. If I can prove this to you, if I use the type of operator of the JavaScript, you will see that it is an object. Okay. Now we have a lot of properties and the methods attached to this object, and through that object we can use them and do the DOM manipulation basically. Let me show you all those things attached to the document object, console.dir, and you see all those are attached to the document object. No worries, we don't need to use all of it. um, Now let's begin with a direct example. I want to change the hello world to some other text. What is the procedure I need to do in order to do so? Because all my pages converted an object under the name of document, every piece of my document is also an object. The h1 is an object by itself, the button is an object by itself. So I I need to select the element I want to make a change and then just go and find the proper document object model inter library method or property to do the necessary changes. Let's begin with the selection part, okay? We have in the document object, attached to document object, we have a lot of methods, a selector, and they are called selectors to select elements from the document. The one that I like to use most is the query selector, okay? Because by using the query selector, you can basically select the element by the class name or element name or the ID name. Just like if you ever involved with CSS, and I strongly recommend you to do so if you want to learn the document object model. In CSS, we select the elements by the class name, by the ID name, by the element name. It is just same here. We need to pass to the query selector the element we wanna choose, and either the class or whatever is available. At the moment, I have only one h1 element, and I don't have any other. Then I can go by the element name. Here in the query selector method, I am gonna pass the element name as a string, just like that. Go back to the console. Now, if I open it, you will again see a lot of properties attached to the that h1 element, because it is an object now, not just an HTML, right? If I console.log, you see, let me show you. When I hover over, you can see that it is also selected from the browser. It's because that element is an object now. Let's just use also, we can prove that by using the type of method. And you can see that it's an object. Okay. Now, since we select it, and what I want to do, I want to change the text in the h1. Well, I can go just basically in the HTML element and just change the text whatever I want, but that's not the point. We want to do it with the JavaScript. I will go back to the console there, and on the h1, you will notice two properties here: inner HTML and inner text. you can see that they are capturing the text in it. And which means if I use that property on that object I have just selected, and because it's an object, I can use the property by the dot notation, and I'm going to use the inner text here. If I do that, you see I am grabbing the hello world. And only thing we need to do then, reassign that value, because it's just simply a string, right? Like it's basically it is an object, and that now I pick up a value, and if I want to reassign a value, all I have to do is to pass another string. Welcome to my website. And that's it. I Okay, now as the next step, I want to change the text here after a button click. This means I have a condition now. A user is going to click on the click me button and then the text is going to change. How can I communicate that? Well, again, because I'm going to make the click me button open to user interaction, first I need to select it. Okay, just like the H1 here. Button has an ID, btn ID. Let's see how we can use the query selector to select by the ID. Okay, so, again, we are taking the document object query selector method. And now instead of an element name, I am passing the ID name by the string as a string. And because this is an ID, I put the hash in front of it, and it was btn. Okay, now I have the button element selected. To the button element, button object now, I will add addEventListener method. Let me make this the whole screen so we can see it better. addEventListener is a method belong to document object model API library. Okay. And it takes two parameters. The first one is basically the type of the interaction. Here we are clicking on the button, so it is the click event. If we were writing to an input field, we have change event. So different types of events is going to be fired when the user interact with the web page. Okay, the second parameter is a function. And this function is going to execute only after the user click on the click me button, not before. Okay, and I am passing this as an arrow function. Okay. What we want it to happen, this change, this inner text change is going to happen because after the click event, I'm just going to cut that and place it in the body of the addEventListener function, just like that. Now, if I go back to the browser, I don't see any longer the welcome to my website text. But if I go and click on the click me button, the text is going to change. querySelector is not the only selector. Of course, through the document object, we have the getElementById, getElements by class name, getElements by tag name. You can see on the table what are the differences between those selectors. Now, we just work on a basic example of DOM manipulation. You have learned how to select elements, attach event listeners, and update content dynamically. As a next step, you can try experimenting with different elements and events to see what you can create. Keep coding and exploring. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell if you found this helpful. See you in the next tutorial.